Hi there, my name's Daniel King and this is a report on Game 3 of the Kramnik Aronian match that took place today in Zürich. What a fantastic game this turned out to be. Kramnik, going into the game, was 1.5 down, looking to settle the score. He opened with e4, the first surprise of the day, so he was obviously out to shake things up. e5 from Aronian. And now another slight surprise instead of the Spanish, another opening. Well, a relatively quiet start from Kramnik, 4 knights, and then they transposed into a Scotch. And this position, well, after bishop b4, this doesn't have a very great reputation for white. It's a very solid way to play, but for example here, it's a very old continuation, but black is fine. But Aronian said afterwards that he was looking for action today as well, so he wanted to get out of any potential preparation of Kramnik, so he played bishop c5. A little bit unusual, but not a bad move by any stretch. Bishop e3 from Kramnik, and they castled on opposite wings, and this is when the position started to explode. Aronian played d5, which Kramnik said afterwards he'd actually looked at a little bit in his preparation, and but not in any depth. He only saw that after bishop g5 the computer said this was okay for white, and he didn't look any further. If f6, then bishop c4 is a little bit unpleasant for black, but this was never Aronian's intention. After bishop g5 he sacrificed his queen with knight takes c3. Fantastic idea. Bishop takes queen, then knight takes d1, and all hell is breaking loose in this position. Let me give you a quick idea of what this, what kind of compensation black can look forward to. If, for example, queen takes knight, then rook takes bishop, and black in this position has rook and bishop and pawn against the queen. Well, a rough material balance, but actually here, fantastic compensation, already better for black because you can cement that bishop in the middle of the board, you dominate the dark squares. Black is already better in this kind of position. So that's the kind of thing black is looking forward to. Okay, let's go back. That did not happen, but Kramnik played very confidently and very bravely here. He could have retreated the bishop, but instead he took on c7, and after this move took on c6. I mean, this is excellent calculation. Now, there are so many possibilities here. I mean, at first I thought knight b2 might be an interesting idea, to take here and get compensation against the king, but it turns out that knight d4, and the knight is simply trapped after knight a4, bishop b5, and suddenly white is absolutely fine. So let's go back. Knight e3 was played, and black has definite compensation here. I mean, you can see if the knight were to retreat, in fact black would win on the spot here with bishop f4, and there's actually no defense here. King b1, for example, knight takes bishop, queen takes, and the rook slams on the back rank, and it's all over. Let's go back. So that's the kind of trickery that Kramnik was trying to avoid, and he found a fantastic move here. Bishop b5. That keeps him in the game and actually gives him the advantage. So after bishop b5, I mean, there are many possibilities here for black. Aronian took and found knight c4, a very tricky move indeed. And now came queen d4. I mean, there were other possibilities for both players, but let me zip on with the game, otherwise we'll never get the report finished. And now came bishop e6. Bishop takes rook. And now if simply rook takes bishop, okay, we've got a situation where black has 3 minor pieces against the queen and 2 pawns, but here a simple move like rook e1, threatening some kind of nasty counter sacrifices, rook takes bishop, and suddenly black's position is falling apart. So Aronian improved with bishop b6. And now came queen d3. Kramnik was trying to work out whether he could actually play queen e4 to protect that bishop. But, well, black should be absolutely fine after... No, sorry, not knight takes b2. Bishop e3 check. Of course, if king here, then knight d2. And if king here, well, you can either take on b2. Aronian even thought rook here and bishop b6. He thought he had very good compensation. So after thinking for some time, Kramnik put the queen back on d3. And now came rook takes bishop. Now rook e1. Kramnik is starting to stabilise. I should say, around about this time, he was playing very quickly and very confidently. In fact, Aronian was down on time in this position. But it's still a very, very tricky position indeed. And here Aronian played an extraordinary move. He came up with g5. Now, of course, black has to solve the back rank problem. Perhaps you could try this with g6. Kramnik was very confident. He thought he was simply better in this position. But g5, Aronian wanted to take some squares away from the queen, but this makes black's position even more difficult because suddenly he has to look after his slightly loose king, and he has to look after the minor pieces and rook as well. And this is the kind of position that a queen loves, of course. Loads of targets. Still a tricky position though. Kramnik played so carefully, so impressively, just taking away squares from black's pieces. And again, before he advances anything, rook e2, just covering everything. This was a really impressive play. And I think h6 is indicative that Aronian has kind of run out of things to do. g3, and Kramnik has a clear plan. He can simply advance the h-pawn or perhaps the f-pawn. a5, now Kramnik rolls forward. And f5, bishop's got to come here, queen comes back. Bishop b6, okay, that's to guard the rook so the bishop can now move. But now Kramnik started edging forward. This is very strong indeed. And here, very nice next move from Kramnik. A lot of us watching thought that he might go for queen b5, which looks very strong, just to hit everything and maybe play here. But there's a chance that black could maybe get some kind of fortress in this kind of position. Of course, white is better. But Kramnik played very pragmatically. In this position, he just gave back the exchange. And once that bishop pair is gone from the board, then the queen just dominates. And you can see that black's pieces are split. This pawn is very useful for attacking the king, and basically Kramnik is now in the driving seat, and he blew Aronian off the board. Aronian also was in terrible time pressure by this point. Let's just see the end of the game. Rook d8 plate, queen b5, keep hitting the pieces. Now Kramnik just edged forward, b4, knight came back. Now the pawns roll forward, and this is a nice move, g4, just keeping everything solid before advancing. And queen here, and instead of taking the bishop, Kramnik kept pushing forward. Okay, only now did he take. And here, that is a killer move. Setting up this deadly pin. The king can't move because the rook is on prise, and black is gone now. In this position, it's the 42nd move. Aronian had made the time control with seconds to spare, but here he resigned. Let's have a look and see how the game might have been finished. Well, let's say knight c6. Well, let's put the queen back on a1. So maintaining this pin on the long diagonal, preventing knight a7. Okay, black can only wait. King rolls forward. Threat, queen takes rook and king takes knight, so the knight has to go back. So we've broken the blockade, and now the knight goes back, and well, let's say queen c7 even wins the knight. Really impressive game from Kramnik. He played so confidently. So scores even, 1.5 all, 3 games to go. It's going to be great stuff.